Okay, so now that we've created our models, let's tie everything together with some functions. The first function that we're going to be writing is going to be making a payment. And then finally, we're going to wrap all that up with buying a bakery item. So let's handle making a payment first. So I'm going to call this function make payment. And let's just create an empty function for the time being. Our arguments are going to be the payment method. So let's go payment method, and we'll define the type of our payment method to be payment method. We also need to know how much we're going to be paying. So let's add that as a second argument, and that's going to be a number. So the first thing we want to check is, can the payment method afford the amount of the transaction? And the way that we can do that is by going if payment method dot available balance is less than the amount, we're just going to throw an error which says payment method does not have sufficient funds, and hit save. At this point, if we weren't creating this as just an example, we would go ahead and add all of our transaction logic here. But because we don't really have time for that, and this isn't also the purpose of this tutorial, we're just going to log to the console and say payment was taken successfully, and hit save. Okay, so that's our very, very simple make payment function, which uses all of the types that we've declared higher up in our file. And to wrap all of this up, we're going to create a very simple function, which is going to simulate paying for all of the items in the customer's basket with their default payment method. So I'm just going to go ahead and define a new function, and we'll go pay for items in basket. And here we're just going to need to pass in our customer, because our customer model has all the information on it that we need. So let's go through all of the items in our customer's basket and make a payment for each one. So let's go customer.items in basket, and we're just going to do a for each loop. Here I'm just going to go bakery item, let's call it bakery item, and just open up a new closure there. So let's go ahead and make a payment on each one of these bakery items, keeping in mind that our make payment function does throw an error. So we're going to need to wrap this in a try catch to log any errors that we encounter along the way. So let's go try make payment, and we're going to pass in the customer's primary payment method, followed by the bakery item's price. And let's just catch that. And for the time being, again, this is just an example, I'm just going to log this error to console. Error encountered whilst making payments, details, e.message, and just hit save there. At this point, if the user makes a payment, we want to remove that from their original balance. So to do that, we're going to extend our make payment function by going payment method dot available balance minus equals the amount, and then I'm going to hit save. If this payment is successful, we can assume that the customer now owns that bakery item. So we're going to want to remove one from stock. And to do that, we can just go bakery item dot number in stock, and again, minus equals 1. And let's just log something to the console here so that we get some kind of approval that the payment has been made. So I'll go console.log, and I'm going to use the template string because I'm going to add quite a few variables in here. Customer with ID, customer.id has just purchased bakery item.name. There are bakery item.number in stock left in stock. There are bakery item.number in stock items left in stock. I'm just going to hit save on that one. Hi there, just a quick interruption to let you know this video is part of a larger course called An Introduction to TypeScript. It's aimed at JavaScript developers who basically want to get up and running with TypeScript in about 2 hours. I'm going to be uploading the entire course for free on this YouTube channel over the next few months, but if you want direct access to the entire course like right now, there should be a link on the screen or in the description where you can get the entire thing now. Thanks again for watching, back to the video. Okay, so we've created our payment method. We created a customer object earlier on, and they don't have any items in the basket. So let's go ahead and add our donut item to the basket. Now I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to call our pay for items in basket and pass in that customer object that we made earlier on. Okay, so we've written our TypeScript. We should be just about ready to actually run our JavaScript file that is built from our TypeScript. So to do that, I've been obviously watching with TypeScript watch this entire time, but in case you weren't, I'm going to go ahead and go yarn tsc, which will perform a build action. And that's all done. If you encounter any errors here, you'll want to fix those before we move on, because that doesn't necessarily mean that the build has completed successfully, and you'll probably encounter errors when we run it in Node.js in a few minutes time. Okay, so assuming that we've got Node.js installed, I'm just going to go to our build folder and I'm going to run node index.js and hit enter. And in our console, we see payment was taken successfully. Customer with ID, my first customer, has just purchased donut. There are 9 items left in stock. Let's check how many items were in stock at the beginning of the transaction. There's 10. So that's correct. And the payment was taken successfully because the available balance eclipsed the amount that the transaction required. Okay, so that worked great, but let's test out and see what happens if the payment method doesn't have enough to afford the bakery item. To do that, I'm just going to change the amount in our available balance in the default payment method to 5, keeping in mind that the donut's price is £10, again, very expensive for a donut. But now the payment method that we're going to be using does not have a high enough balance to be able to afford that donut. Remember that we also need to build our TypeScript before we test it out. So to do that, I'm just going to go back up a folder directory and I'm just going to run yarn tsc once again, which will build our TypeScript. I'm going to go back into the build folder. I'm going to run node index.js, clear our console. And this time we get an error. Error encountered when making payment details. Payment method does not have sufficient funds. So that's all correct. That's working exactly the way that it should be. Now I want to leave our code in a positive place. So I'm going to go ahead and increase our available balance and just go back up a folder, build that one last time, and just double check to make sure everything's working by going node index.js, and the payment was successful. And that just about wraps up everything that I wanted to cover in this Introduction to TypeScript course. We've learned the fundamentals and built ourselves a very, very simple app. And from here, you can now take this knowledge and apply it to your front-end stack, your back-end stack, or really wherever JavaScript is used. From here, there's also a React for TypeScript course that you can access, which will give you an idea as to how you can use the learnings that you've gathered from this Introduction to TypeScript course inside of a popular web framework, React. And also, you can extend your knowledge by having a look at the Advanced TypeScript course. Thanks again for following along. I really, really hope you've enjoyed this Introduction to TypeScript, and I really hope that I see you in some more of the other courses. Thanks again.